The number of weather-related disasters has increased fivefold in the past 50 years. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization. On average, an event...
At least 36 people have died. Dozens of others are hurt after a head-on crash between a passenger train and a cargo train.
Well, Ukraine has stabilized the front line. How long it can hold it in place is unknown.
Tonight, a Douglas County community still in shock over a mass shooting in a tranquil suburban neighborhood. 8 people were shot, with 2 of them being killed.
Living in our modern world where everyone is connected can be a daunting experience. An experience where a majority of topics depicted by mainstream news outlets and social media are negative. And let's be honest, most of us are addicted to our phones, and most of us are doom scrolling, sometimes without even knowing it. This has a profoundly negative impact on our mental health. As Robin Blades, an experienced clinical researcher and science writer, says in her article, Protecting the Brain Against Bad News, this negative spiral, lately dubbed doom scrolling, can take a toll on mental health. Studies have linked the consumption of bad news to increased distress, anxiety, and depression, even when the news in question is relatively mundane. According to Graham Davey, Professor Emeritus of Psychology at the University of Sussex, exposure to bad news can make personal worries seem worse, and even cause acute stress reactions and some symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder that can be quite long-lasting. In our first world countries, it's hard not to feel a little depressed as we sit in our ivory towers and watch the world burn, knowing that eventually the ground below us will crumble. Adding on to that is our intrapersonal stressors, whether it's family problems, work, or more importantly, our mental health. What I'm trying to say is that the stress we feel is a result of real-world issues that we face. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because recently I learned that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was voted one of the top stress-relieving games, alongside The Sims, Minecraft, and The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and I want to delve into why I think that is. Since Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time, I feel somewhat qualified to talk about this. See, these games all have something in common. They allow us to escape. This is mainly due to their open-ended game design. Minecraft allows us to mine and build what we like wherever we like. From the beginning, Skyrim offers a huge world with many in-depth quest lines to choose from, and The Sims lets us live an entire second life vicariously through these little avatars. And Breath of the Wild, oh man, Breath of the Wild gives us a massive world full of stunning vistas and the freedom of knowing that we can travel wherever we want, whenever we want. It fosters a cathartic atmosphere through its visuals and sparse but calming audio. Hearing this faint piano track in the background as you glide through Hyrule gives me this sense of groundedness that no other game has ever given me. The reason why I'm making this video is because recently the algorithm gods have been feeding me a stream of videos usually along the lines of how Dark Souls saved me. Now, I've always used video games as a coping method, so to see others opening up about doing the same made me feel really validated. Playing through Dark Souls taught me the importance of trying again after failing. No matter how many times I failed a boss fight, I still knew it was possible, that I needed to adapt my playstyle or build for the next time. I learned from each failure, and that's something that applies deeply to real life. But Breath of the Wild offers a fundamentally different experience. It offers an escape. Through its immersive atmosphere, I could get lost and forget whatever problems I have in real life. It's a big reason people play video games, read books, listen to music, or watch movies. It offers an escape, which leads me to the fundamental topic of this video, escapism. Escapism is defined by the American Psychology Association as the tendency to escape from the real world to the safety and comfort of a fantasy world. It's a coping mechanism that can have a positive impact on one's life. Personally, my main modes of escapism are exercising, playing video games, repairing or maintaining technology, and recently making these videos. While some of these methods may not be the most productive, they're all effective coping mechanisms to combat stress. Well, if used too often, escapism can be a detriment to our lives. But hell, there are much worse escapist methods than just playing video games or reading books. As someone who has depression, anxiety, and ADHD, I was pretty much dealt the fucking wombo combo of mental health issues. But Breath of the Wild helped me, and it still does, to slow down and take in the sights of this fictional world, and for a small moment be at peace. And it looks like I'm not alone on this. There's a really interesting Medium article written by Jay Rooney analyzing his and other positive experiences with the game, how they used it as a coping mechanism to handle depression, anxiety, and other health issues, mental or physical, having a therapeutic effect on them. The author himself would switch on Breath of the Wild while his 1-month-old daughter was in the hospital for 2 open heart surgeries, a grueling experience which, according to the author, Breath of the Wild helped him get through. Every time I boot up Breath of the Wild, I start to feel every external and internal stressor melt away while I'm thrust into the world of Hyrule, taking in every scenic vista this game has to offer, watching as the clouds roll over Link, casting its own wispy shadows. It's clear that the developers poured so much effort into making Breath of the Wild as immersive as possible, while still instilling the sense of adventure within you. From the very beginning, you're shown exactly what Breath of the Wild has to offer. The whole world. A land reimagined time and time again, but this time in its most open and sprawling state yet. There is a certain magic to seeing every peak, every interesting detail of Hyrule's topography and knowing that it will be explored eventually. Of course, that magic has faded a bit on my 6th playthrough, but hey, this time I'm playing it at 4K and 60 FPS, and damn, this game has never looked better. It's like every landscape scene could be its own Bob Ross painting tutorial. There's also the sparse, dynamic audio of Breath of the Wild. Most of the time in the wilderness, you get a few piano keys playing with the sounds of wilderness to fill the empty spaces between. The sound of birds, crickets, waterfalls, the trees blowing in the wind are all used to keep us immersed into the wilderness, while more upbeat, homely music plays as we visit a town or stable. Many other open-world games show what the game has to offer as soon as you unlock the map. All these little dots on the map just to show how jam-packed the content is, even though most of those activities are copied and pasted over and over again with little variation between them. Repetition aside, I think the problem with this approach is that we're essentially given a list of tasks to do in the future, and for me that's just too overwhelming. Instead, Breath of the Wild focuses on the now. We're only given the locations of shrines, towns, and towers that we've already visited. The rest is out there for us to discover. It lets us focus on the now. What interesting landmark should I go check out right now? And because of that, many of my playthroughs end up looking like I took a pretty linear path adventuring through Hyrule, and that's because I was strung along from landmark to landmark. And that focus on the present within Breath of the Wild is a huge factor in how this game grounds us and further immerses us into the world. To conclude, Breath of the Wild is one of the most stress-relieving games I've ever played, due to its immersive atmosphere. I and others who deal with mental health challenges use it as a way to escape for a short period of time. While escapism is detrimental when used in excess, it's a coping strategy that helps us push through our own hardships. Whether it's playing Breath of the Wild or any other game, reading a book, watching a movie, listening to music, exercising, hiking, I could go on and on, but the point is we do these things to ease our own mind and forget about the things that are stressing us out for a small period of time, which makes a positive impact on our life. The point is to keep doing what you love to do, and don't feel bad if it's not the most productive task that you could be doing, because we all deserve a break. And that is how Breath of the Wild saves us. Thank you for watching.